Hello and welcome to Ask Your Academic. Today's session will cover the MSc Global Mental Health and Master of Public Health. We're joined by our panel who are going to do their best to answer all your questions that you have, so please do use the chat box to ask any further questions, and we've also got a list of questions that were submitted beforehand that we'll run through. We are recording this session, so please don't panic if you miss anything. We will share the recording shortly afterwards for you to watch back in your own time. So I'll share some useful links in the chat as well, just for links to things like scholarships, funding, accommodation, things like that. So we'll start off by just introducing our panel. Sharon, would you like to go first?
Thanks, Naomi. I'm Dr. Sharon Greenwood. I'm a senior lecturer in public health and I run the Masters in Public Health on campus programme here at the university.
Julie?
Great. Hi, everybody, and thanks, Naomi. My name's Professor Julie Langan-Martin, and I'm Professor of Psychiatry here in the School of Health and Wellbeing at the University of Glasgow, and I'm the Programme Lead for the on-campus Global Mental Health Masters.
Margaret?
Hi, I'm Margaret Ashton, and I'm the Postgraduate Administrator for the on-campus Master of Public Health.
And Andy?
Hi, I'm Andy Smith. I am the Administrator for the MSc in Global Mental Health here at the university.
Sharon, would you like to give us a quick overview of the MPH programme? Sorry.
Yes, of course. Sorry, my mouse wasn't working there. So the Masters in Public Health on-campus programme runs full-time over 1 year, or it can be run as a part-time programme over 2 or 3 years. The Masters in Public Health seeks to upskill people to understand what public health is and how it fits in with wider societal understandings of health. We have a really interdisciplinary team who teach. So you'll be taught from a range of social scientists, from statisticians, from clinicians, right through to data scientists. It's a really interesting program for that reason, because there's so many people are coming together to kind of really provide a really interdisciplinary understanding of health. The program itself is run over, as I said, over 1 year or over 2 or 3 years part-time. Everyone does 3 core courses. Those courses are research methods, principles of public health, and intro to epidemiology and statistics. Then there's the option to take another 3 optional courses, and we have a wide range of optional courses, and you can see these on our website. I'm happy to answer any questions about the optional courses. Everyone also does a project, and this is an opportunity to build your research skills and to get a bit of experience in understanding how to do research in public health. One of the other things about public health is that we offer specialisms as well. So we have the standard Masters in Public Health, which the majority of students will do. However, we do also offer an MPH with specialism. The specialism comes with an associated core course, and the project needs to be linked to the specialism. The 4 specialisms are epidemiology, data science, health promotion, and health economics. And our applicants and certainly the students who come here often say that this is something that really sets Glasgow apart from other places where they study an MPH, that you've got the opportunity to specialise in a particular area. But I'm very happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Sharon. And Julie, could you do the same for Global Mental Health, please?
Great. Yep. Yes, of course. So the Global Mental Health Masters Programme has quite a similar structure to the Masters in Public Health course. So if you're a full-time student, it runs over 1 year. And again, if you're a part-time student, it tends to run over 2 years. We've been running since about 2014, and we usually attract between sort of 35 and 40 students every year to our on-campus programme. So like Sharon's MPH, we have several core courses for the Global Mental Health Masters Programme. So these are our themes in Global Mental Health course. We have our research methods, qualitative, quantitative, and health economics course. And then we have our mental health and disability, international law and policy course, which are 3 core courses for the Global Mental Health Masters Programme, and also the Global Mental Health dissertation project as well. Similar to the Masters of Public Health, we have the Global Mental Health Masters on its own, or we have the Global Mental Health MSc with specialisms. We have two specialisms. We have the health promotion specialism, and we have new for 26-27, the social innovation specialism. And for our specialisms, you do an additional core course, and your dissertation has to be aligned to the specialism. Like the MPH programme as well, we have quite a wide and varied teaching team. So there's myself as the programme lead, and I lead one of the core courses as well, themes in global mental health. And then we have lots of other academics based within mental health and wellbeing within the school who lead our other courses. So we have people with expertise in behavioural science leading some of the courses. We have Professor of Health Psychology leading the courses. So a really varied group of academics delivering the programme.
Fab. And you have both mentioned specialisms there. How early on do students need to decide what specialism they want to do, if at all?
Do you want me to go first for global mental health? So, I mean, I think similar probably to MPH, but Sharon is obviously a better place to talk to that. We try and encourage students to pick their specialisms quite early because it impacts on their core courses. So we need to know early on if students want to do a specialism so that we can make sure they're doing the right core courses. And then when they're being matched to their dissertation supervisor as well, we need to make sure that the dissertation aligns to that particular specialism. What we always say to students as well is, or what I tend to say is that if you're thinking about doing a specialism, you can always opt out of it, if that makes sense, rather than kind of opting in. So it's best to kind of opt in first. And then if you decide, actually, I don't want to do that specialism, it's easier to kind of opt out. But I'll let Sharon speak on behalf of MPH.
Similar for MPH, we try to encourage all students to make the decision at the end of week 2 of semester 1, which is really early, but we do this because we share a lot of courses with other programmes, and it's to ensure that you can definitely get a place on those core courses that are essential for your degree. Similarly, as Julie had said, and the Masters in Public Health and Masters in Global Mental Health do a lot of sharing in terms of project allocation. So we work across as a school-based approach to make sure that you get the best supervisor that fits you. So it helps just make sure that you've got the best supervisor for your project that aligns with your specialism as well.
Great. And just on the research projects, can you tell us a wee bit more about that? So we're always asked like about choosing a topic, how do you find a supervisor, things like that.
We've recently moved to doing largely supervisor-based projects where the supervisors will provide a topic or a topic area that the students will opt in to explore. The benefits of this are that you will often be joining a already existing research project to get that really work-based learning approach to understanding how to do research in the real world. There is scope, though, if you are really interested in your own topic, that we can work with you to work up something. So if you're really passionate about a particular area or a particular topic, please do come and see us, and we can definitely work it. A lot of our students have been really enjoying working on supervisor-led topics. Supervisors often then have the expertise and the knowledge in that area to provide really, really one-on-one advice. We do always aim to match supervisors and students methodologically. So if you're doing a qualitative methods project, we would align you with someone who has expertise in that area, and vice versa for a more quantitative or statistical based project. I don't know if Julie, if you want to add anything to that.
No, I was just going to say we've kind of, because the MPH and the Global Mental Health programme sit within the School of Health and Wellbeing, we've taken this kind of cross-school approach, which Sharon has really, kind of really summarised there. So we do take this kind of cross-school approach to matching students to their dissertation supervisors, and it does tend to be this kind of supervisor-led matching process, but there is scope, as Sharon said, if students are really keen to do their own project, that sometimes, provided it is within the master's level scope, because sometimes projects can be really big, we can try our best to accommodate that.
And
Great.
just to jump in, sorry,
Yeah.
just one of the things that I always get asked by public health students are they're really interested in mental health. And obviously, we've got a really big unit within the school, mental health and wellbeing. So there is, even if you're not doing the Global Mental Health Masters, there is the opportunity to kind of explore mental health in a public health context. And we can support you with supervisors and vice versa if you're global mental health and interested in public health.
Great, that's really good to know. And in terms of the classes, where are they typically held? Are they sort of normally on main campus?
I'll let you go,
Julie,
Sharon.
do you want to go first, Julie? Because
Okay, I can go
yeah.
first because it's our cohort's slightly kind of more straightforward, I suppose. So we are very lucky. We have our Claris Pears building where the School of Health and Wellbeing is based, which is on the main campus. It's on the Old Western Infirmary site, if people are maybe familiar with the campus at the University of Glasgow. So we're very fortunate that for really pretty much all of our courses for the Global Mental Health Masters programme, they tend to occur within, or they're hosted within our school. So we have our teaching spaces on level one, which are really, really nice kind of teaching spaces. So the vast majority of our teaching happens in the Claris Pears building. There may be the occasional session that can't be hosted within the Claris Pears building, but it usually is hosted alternatively somewhere on the main campus.
The joys of having a really large programme for the Masters in Public Health, we usually have an intake of around 80 to 90 students. So we unfortunately can't be based in semester one in the Claris Pears building because there's no teaching space big enough. However, you are based close to Claris Pears in semester one, and you are always welcomed into Claris Pears in semester one. We will have ad hoc events, and you do seminars in Claris Pears as well. So you will get familiar with our home building. All of our semester two courses generally are taught in Claris Pears. So from semester two onwards, you'll be joining the postgraduate taught students from the other programmes here in our building.
And it's such a nice building too as well. There's loads going on, which is really nice. There's a question just popped in there that kind of linked to the research projects that we were talking about, and someone's asked if oh,
Sorry, I've just answered it.
I'll just read it. So if anybody else is thinking it when they watch back, if students in global mental health are really interested in policy, is there a way to complete a research project with an advisor in a public policy area?
Yeah, so absolutely. So we've had several students over the years that have undertaken a kind of policy-based research project, and we do have expertise within the school to help support that type of project.
Perfect. You're very quick off the mark there, Julie, answering that question. And what kind of background do the students typically have for both the programmes?
So for Global Mental Health, is it all right if I jump in first? Sorry, Sharon. Our students are really diverse in terms of their background, both in terms of their kind of professional backgrounds, their disciplinary backgrounds, and their geographical backgrounds. So we've had students historically who've maybe come from an undergraduate psychology degree. So we have several students who are from that background, but that's not the only background. So sometimes people get a bit worried if they haven't done an undergrad in psychology that then this program's not for them. But no, so students from law backgrounds, students from anthropology backgrounds, English literature, geography. We have students who are more professional backgrounds, so some students from a nursing background, students from medical backgrounds, so really very diverse in terms of their disciplinary background.
Similarly, public health tends to be a lot more clinical based people. So people who've maybe moved who trained in a clinical based role, nurses, doctors, lots of dentists who come and they are keen to kind of understand the wider determinants of health. So they might have understood health and learned about health and well-being in a very individualistic, patient-centered focus, but public health allows them to expand out and to think about how health is situated in a wider social, economic, worldwide context. We don't let that put you off because we have a lot of, while we have our clinician cohort, we also have a lot of students who come from various different areas, sociology, social public policy, psychology. We've had graduates from English literature come through. We've had people from engineering come through. It is a really, really unique programme and a space to kind of embrace that. And we really encourage students to think about how their home discipline can relate to public health. And similarly, I think same for global mental health as well, that there's while you've got the transferable skills that you've maybe had at your undergraduate degree, I think this is the School of Health and Wellbeing is a really nice place to kind of think about retraining and think about moving into a different avenue.
Well, I didn't really appreciate how broad it was. That's amazing. Um, Something we're always asked as well. I think some students are surprised at the difference between postgraduate study and undergraduate study and the level of self-study involved. So can you tell us a bit about that? So how much contact time versus self-study is there or is expected?
I think the ramp up, everyone is very shocked by the ramp up from undergraduate to postgraduate. And I think that's universal across the board. So I don't think it's necessarily unique to any of our programs. You do get quite a bit of contact time in semester one, where you will have, certainly in public health, we have seminars and we have labs, in addition to lecture touch points. We also have additional sessions that relate to your project. There is a lot of requirement for you to be a self-motivated learner, and I think that is part of being a postgraduate student, is learning how to have a really good work schedule that allows you some work-life balance and allows you to kind of balance all your commitments that you have in your life. We really support you to try and do that, and we kind of help you get off the ground to start with, and then hopefully by the time you hit semester two, you've got a really nice study plan in place of how you approach your work and your study. As a rule of thumb, usually it's about 3 hours contact time per course per week. That varies, I would say, but it's about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So for global mental health, very similar. So we don't have as many labs or seminars in semester one compared to public health. But again, for each course, we will see the students usually 2 to 3 hours per week per course. So that might be, say, 30 hours per course over each semester. If you're studying kind of full time and you've only 3 courses happening in the one semester.
And it's maybe worth mentioning, Andy and Margaret, that there is loads of different support services available for their students, isn't there? That if they need a hand with different things, there's always someone that you can contact.
Yeah, I mean, the university offers lots of support. We do have a student support officer. So that's usually if a student's struggling in any way, not just their health, but, in any way at all, financially, academically, if there's any issues. In the first instance, we would usually recommend they engage with their student support officer, who can advise them of all of the support that is available to them at the university. The university also has a disability service, and if students have any kind of disability or at all, they should engage with the disability service after they've been offered a place, because they will then be assessed by the disability service, and if there's any extra help that we can offer them, the disability service will let us know. And it's better to do that as soon as possible, because once the academic year starts, it's extremely busy, and if you leave it till then, it might take longer for you to get assessed. So we would definitely, recommend that students or applicants, as soon as you've got a place, is to do that right away. So that you're not, because sometimes people leave it late and it's actually well into semester two before we get a notification of what the student refers. Most students, it's just flexibility with assessment submission deadlines, but other students might need a special piece of software, or might need other kinds of help. But it's definitely, there is lots of support available at the university, and we always encourage students to use that support.
Perfect. Yeah, the earlier the better, really, isn't it? There was a question submitted, and I actually think it was for MPH, but it probably applies to both of them, the programmes. To what extent does the MPH challenge the transfer of high-income public health models to low, middle income settings?
Good question. So obviously a lot of our teaching begins from a point of understanding from high income countries, because we are based in a high income country. However, we do try and expand out and think about how the models and the theories and things that we teach you in class apply in a global context. And we're very mindful of ensuring that the examples and the situations and the readings that we provide represent a much more inclusive and broad perspective of the reality of the world. We really encourage you to think about, particularly if you come from a low and middle income country, we encourage you to think about your living environment, your professional environment, and think about how you might analyse that through your assessments. So our assessments are really quite open. We give you steers and we direct you, but there is the opportunity to think about your lived experience in relation to a particular topic.
Fab, thank you. And then there was another one. Does the programme help in translating public health theory into experience for those who want to work internationally afterwards?
Yes, absolutely. So we've got graduates who work all over the world. We've got graduates who've worked in supranational organisations, so like the WHO and the UN. We've also had really interesting routes for some of our graduates. One of our graduates a couple of years ago ended up becoming the first public health officer of a cruise ship, um, which was really interesting and actually just shows the real breadth of spaces that our public health graduates can go. Lots of our graduates can go into things to do with public policy, advocacy, data science, analytics. There's lots of space and lots of room for that kind of movement. And I think Julie is similar for the Global Mental Health Programme.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, our graduates have worked kind of all over the world. We've had some working for the WHO, some in the UN as well. But yeah, lots of really diverse, and I think it kind of reflects the diverse students who join the cohort, and then as they leave, they have really interesting, really exciting jobs kind of all over the world. And we've been we're trying to do a bit of work to kind of track our alumni, but yeah, we kind of follow them all on LinkedIn and see what they're up to.
Oh,
I
that's
think
it.
on that note, sorry, I think it's really interesting seeing the cohort come together and actually we see the cohorts move on and the connections you make during your cohort are often the ones that you maintain through the rest of your life. So if you meet someone from another country, actually you forge that relationship and that's something you can take on to your personal and professional life.
I suppose it is the start of your sort of professional networking, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because if everybody's going out different jobs, that was great. That was two questions answered in one there. So well done. And something else we were asked was about assessments. So what sort of assessments can students expect from the various courses?
Yeah. So sorry, shall I jump in quickly?
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think we're quite similar because we've done a lot of work kind of school wide to really kind of enhance our assessments. So we've moved away from these kind of 100% high stake assessments that we used to have, kind of high stakes exams and things like this, and really diversified our assessments to encourage the development of transferable skills that are going to be useful for our graduates as they move into the workplace. So I think across both programs, we've got things like certainly in global mental health designing information sheets, designing posters, doing presentations for sure across both programs. Lots of diverse types of assessments. We've got essay writing as well, more kind of traditional assessments. For global mental health, we have a blog writing assessment. We have, creating a podcast as well, thinking about a policy brief and designing an anti-stigma campaign. So really diverse, kind of authentic assessments to help develop transferable skills.
Similarly for MPH, because of the nature of some of our courses, like Intro to Epidemiology and Statistics, there is a bit more of working with data. But there's also the ability to engage with group presentations, with single presentations, with getting involved with doing other kind of creative forms, policy briefs, various different things. So we really try and encourage you to build the skills that would be expected of you in the workplace and use your assessments as almost a kind of trial run to build those skills for going ahead.
It gives you an idea of what you like doing as well, doesn't it, to then help influence your future jobs? Just checking the time there, I think this will probably be our last question. So is there anything students can do to prepare themselves for starting their studies in September?
I always say read widely. Really, I think the thing about public health and the thing about global mental health is it's never not in the news. So actually being really familiar with the ways in which our global context is the things that are happening today, the things that are headlines today, will feed into public health in a global mental health context. So for me, it's really read widely, be informed, understand what's going on, try to get a grasp of things like that. There's no such thing, certainly for public health, as a key text or something to read. We don't recommend key textbooks, but there are lots of resources online that you can read quite widely. And if people were wanting to get into touch with me individually to ask for recommendations, I'd be very happy to provide that.
Yeah, and it's absolutely the same for global mental health. So I totally echo Sharon's sentiment. Read widely. We're never far away from being on the news, in terms of, what's happening within the global mental health space. And we do very much align with what's happening kind of, there's no health without mental health. So thinking about what's happening in, for general kind of health and well-being. So I always think the WHO's always got some really great kind of publications that you can have a look at. And for global mental health, we do have our Lancet series, the global mental health publications. They are getting a little bit older now. They are kind of from several years ago, but they're still really good as a starting point and a kind of launch pad for further reading.
Fab. And Andy and Maggie, you must speak to students all the time. Have you got any advice? What would your top tip be?
I think just don't be afraid to ask us questions. You'll be hearing from Margaret and I right from when you start registration all the way through to your graduation. So we can always signpost you to a variety of resources and further support. And we work closely with our programme teams. So we'll work with Sharon and Julie just to make sure that you have all the support you need. So if you have a question about anything, we are a good source, and we'll definitely keep you right.
Margaret, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I would always say that, how don't struggle with anything. There's absolutely no reason to struggle with anything. Just please reach out. We can help you. We can offer support, and it's what we always say: the earlier the better. If there's something you're unsure about, just email us, because normally we'll be able to answer that query in instantaneously, where you might have spent a lot of time looking at it. The other thing I would always say is take advantage of all that's on offer to you at the university, not just academically. There's lots of things, there's lots of support, but take advantage of all of that, because probably for most students, once they've graduated from that, they'll never have those kinds of opportunities again. So definitely take advantage of as much as you possibly can.
I think that's great advice. Sometimes it's like trying to fit it all in because the year goes so quickly, doesn't it?
I think it is, but I think it's also important to have something, alongside your studies that helps you kind of just have a break from your studies, because I think they'll all agree there's no two ways about it. If you're doing a master's full time, it's very intensive, and there's no honeymoon period. It's from day one, you're straight into. I think that's quite often a shock to students, but there's no easing yourself in gently to that. It's full on from day one. So I think it's an advantage to students who have something else, just to kind of have a break from their studies.
Yeah, we all need a bit of downtime, don't we? That is just the end of our session. There's a few questions that have came through asking about entry requirements and scholarships. There is information on our website. We've also got an online event next Tuesday the 3rd, and all that information is on our website. There's a scholarship session and things like that, so do check that out, and do get in touch if there's any further questions. Thanks again to our panel for taking part. I know how busy you all are, and hopefully we'll see you all come September time. Thank you. Bye bye.